Hello everyone, Pantoufleee here today for a new video in which we're gonna talk about the top 5 hardest lines to green. And I'm really sorry because I think for the whole video I'm gonna have hiccups, but I don't have any more time to record this video. I need to do it right now and I can't get rid of it. So really I'm sorry by advance for every that is gonna go out of my throat during this video. So what are the criteria I'm gonna use in order for myself to get to this top 5? It all depends on two things. First, my experience, the experience I had with the tank, but also the fact that most of these tanks are extremely not newbie friendlies, at least the whole line. So let's get started, let's not lose too much time, and we start first with the FV215B1A3 line. This tank, even if it seems quite easy to play when you manage to reach the tier 10, because clearly the tier 10 is just camping and destroying things with your hash and AP shells, the whole branch is a nightmare, and I'm gonna explain to you why. Starting maybe not from the 82, it's fine, but at least from the 88 to the Tortoise, these tanks, at least in my opinion, sucks, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because they were meant to have a lot of armor. I mean, if you look at the armor profile, all these tanks are great. The 88 has a great armor profile, the 87 same, 8015 same, Tortoise same. But the big problem is that all this armor becomes completely useless because of the huge because of the huge weak spots these tanks have. For example, the 88, the huge cupola, you know what, I'm gonna show you real quick so you know what I'm talking about, but you already know what I'm talking about, but still, if you take a look at the 88, this huge cupola, and you have these kind of cupolas on these tanks on pretty much every single tank of the line, except the FV1A3, but the FV1A3 doesn't have any armor, so it's not a big deal to penetrate it. So yeah, that's the main problem I have with this tank. It said they have a lot of armor, they can bounce, they can play aggressively, but as soon as people are aware of your weak spots, you are going to be destroyed, and you don't have a good mobility. So clearly the only thing you have for yourself with these tanks is a gun with a good DPM, and yeah, it's not even a high alpha damage per shot. So yeah, clearly it's not the best line to green. I remember in the good old days I just spent 100 euros just to get to the FV1A3 without playing a single one of them. That was for the first one. The second one I want to talk about is the line going to the STB1, the medium Japanese tier 10, nothing else to say. And there are several things I want to talk about concerning this line. The main problem is that if you compare this line to pretty much every single other medium tanks and medium tanks lines, this one is the worst because you don't have armor, you don't have the best mobility, at least you have a correct gun. Clearly not the best. The only thing these tanks have is the good gun depression, but let's face it, a good gun depression can do all the work. For example, if you compare it with Russian Tech Tree, where all the tanks from the T-34 to the T-62A are extremely effective concerning the medium line, here for the Japanese it's really harder because let's face it, the even starting from tier 1, I go from tier 1 to tier 8, the line sucks because you will not have the best gun, you will not have armor, you will not have the best mobility. You're average, if not below average, on pretty much every single of your statistics. So that's why the STB is also definitely not a new friendly tank, even if the tier 10 is actually really good. I mean, the whole branch is shit, but the reward is worth it because the STB is one of the greatest mediums at tier 10, at least in my opinion. And now, of course, I couldn't do this top 5 hardest tanks to grind without talking about the whole French tech tree. To me, the French tech tree is one of the hardest to master because clearly to play them correctly you need to have a lot of skill, and I'm gonna explain to you why one point by one point. So if we start with the Foch 155, clearly the Foch 155 at the moment is one of the best tank destroyers you can find at tier 10, but the grind to get it is extremely painful. I'm gonna tell you why. From the tier 1 to the tier 3, no, not really a huge problem because they are heavies, so we don't care. We're gonna start at the tier 4. The tier 4 got buffed. I don't know if it's enough or not, but I know that it has a huge cupola. You can see on the SIU 40, and they have pretty much the same problem from tier 4 to tier 6 than the one you had on the AT lines, the FV183 Tech 3 line, because the SAU 40 has this huge cupola. The S35CA is pretty shit, the bathtub, and the ARL V39 doesn't have a good, doesn't have armor at all. It has this huge cupola, but also not the best mobility. And the main problem is that when you reach AC46 and AC48, you have the exact same problem as the AT. You have a good armor profile, but the main problem is that you have two huge weak spots at the top of your tank, making the armor irrelevant. At least here you have a good alpha damage that can carry on, and you have a good mobility, unlike the ATs. So clearly you can try to play it like a medium without a turret. Truly, I don't recommend these tanks. They are really painful. The green starts to be good only when you reach the Foch, which is the tier 9, because the Foch clearly is more effective, because a lot of people are gonna bounce on your cupolas even knowing these are supposed to be your weak spot. Now the AMX50B. AMX50B, I know a lot of people are probably gonna disagree with me, but I'm gonna explain to you why. All the tier 5 got buffed, at least a lot of them, but not the BDR G1B. The BDR got no buff for the moment. I think Wargaming is buffing in the 6.10 update, and I'm glad they do that, because clearly for the moment the only good tanks from this whole line are, to me, the ARL 44, the AMX M445, and the AMX 5100. Even if the AMX M445 is quite average right now because of the buff of pretty much every single heavy tanks. So yeah, clearly the main problem with this line is that most of the newbies are gonna go on the 50B thinking that all the tanks from the French Tech 3 have armor on their heavies, because it's the case on pretty much every single other Tech 3s. If you take a look at the Germans, if you take for example the Mouse line, of course you're gonna have armored tanks. If you take the A100, all the tanks are armored as well. But for the French, you have to remember one thing: these tanks are paper. It's not meant to be played on the front line. It's really extremely matchmaking and map dependent. That's why it makes them hard to play, because it's hard to understand your position and where you should go with these tanks on the battlefield. That's why I wanted to talk about the 50B, especially the whole line. So clearly the 50B is one of the few tanks I would consider going for when I already unlocked everything, or when I'm already a confirmed good player. And now, finally, I couldn't finish this top without talking about the Batchat. Two reasons. The first one is, now we have the Sheridan. The Sheridan is available, and clearly the Sheridan line is better than the Batchat. Clearly better. And also because, let's face it, you're gonna green the whole line just to have some bad version of the Sheridan. I would rather drive the Sheridan than the Batchat. I'm not really comfortable playing the Batchat. I don't like it. But we're not here to talk about the tier 10, but more about the whole line. To me, the French light tanks are the worst in the game. Yeah, clearly, I would rather drive the Russians, or the Germans, or the Americans, or even, I think, the British one when they're gonna come. But yeah, they're not underpowered. They just don't fit the average playstyle you have to take in Blitz in order to carry. It's extremely hard for me to be able to play well with them, because I don't know, I feel like they lack something compared to the other light tanks. I don't know what, but I know they lack something. At least I feel like they lack something. And it's not gonna stop until you reach the Batchat. All of them are lacking something, even the tier 10. And that's why I wanted to finish on this ones, because to me the Batchat is the last one you want to green. It's the worst tank in the game to me at tier 10. A lot of people are going to disagree with me on this, but yeah, you need to keep in mind that I'm talking about mainly mediums here. Out of all the mediums, because I consider the Batchat to be a medium, out of all the mediums, this one is the worst in my opinion. So yeah, that was it for today's video. I'm sorry about the hiccup because yeah, I couldn't manage to get it out, but I hope it's not gonna be too boring for you to watch this, knowing every 30 seconds there is some kind of a going on. So yeah, thank you all for watching. I really hope it's gonna help you choosing the right lines. Clearly, all the branches I talked about here are to be avoided if you're a newbie, a new player, or not a confident player. So please be careful when you're choosing a line because it's extremely important. Thank you all for watching and see you soon.